Dr. Jazz.
Hey guys,
Dr.
Samo here.
Jazz.
Thanks for checking out the channel and its contents. And if you feel like it, please do subscribe. Thanks so much. Enjoy the video. Bye. And thanks for finding the time. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I have so many records, and then I didn't know about the Rick, your other thing, and uh, the project where you sing and everything. And I was like, man, that's amazing. And I wanted to start this talk with this. And where does this come from? Because I wrote that everything comes from the drums, the perspective of drums, and then you build the songs on top of that. Like, what's the story of that project actually?
Well, right now I'm working on my fifth album, and I wrote music I started playing drums before I can even remember. And so when I started playing guitar, I think I was like 7 or 8 years old.
Oh,
And I would just write songs about life like everybody else. I was probably at 7 years old. I had songs called "I'm Going to the Bathroom." I would write songs about picking my nose, girls, stuff like that. And then I started playing bass a couple years after that,
well,
and then I got a 4 track. A friend of mine had a 4 track, so I borrowed it and started making demos, a lot of them. And when I was a teenager in the '80s, I started, giving my demos to friends just for fun, and they were passing them around to people. And people still tell me about, oh, I have this and that. And I was getting embarrassed about it. And then I just started. Later on, I went out to Los Angeles to hang out with my father. So this is like '89.
because
And
your
I
father is
graduated.
Phil, right? Phil
Yeah,
Upchurch, like who did like 6 million records, almost.
right,
Yeah.
right. He recently passed in November,
Mhm.
and that's kind of a funny story. I have an unusually funny story about that, the way I expected it to happen. But anyway, we went out there. When I met him, I think I was like 9 years old or something. My mom said, "Hey, your pop's in town with Jimmy Smith, and we're gonna go down to Blues Alley. That's a jazz club in DC to meet
Yeah.
him." And I was like, "Nah, I wasn't into it," which was a good sign on her because it's like I had no interest. I knew him from album covers with the big afro. So I went down there and I listened to this band, and it was him and Michael Baker on drums.
Mhm.
And Michael had to be probably 30 years old, and Jimmy and Pop. And I never heard anything like it. There was no bass player. They didn't need one. Jimmy's
Jimmy
the
played,
way
yeah.
he was playing the bass on the organ and everything, and the band was so powerful. It was so great. It was like rock, but they were loud. And the first thing I said to my father was, "Y'all got to turn it down. It's too loud." Anyway, so back to the music. I got a record deal with a company that was starting out with a label called Third Stone, and they were run by a guy named Dick Rudolph. Dick and my father went back to the Chicago days, and Rotary Connection, because Dick was married to Minnie Riperton, and they've done a lot of stuff. So fast forward out to Los Angeles, my father takes me over to Dick's spot, which is on Warner Brothers lot in Burbank. You see the water tank with the WB on it, just like the cartoons. Go in there. He says, "Hey, I'm starting this label with Mike Douglas, the actor, and we're going to call it Third Stone." I was like, "Oh, yeah, after Jimmy, okay." And they signed me, but they didn't know what to do with me because I didn't have a live band, and Dick was just jazzed about the demos, all these demos and 4 track things that I had. And that's when he said, "Hey, in the meantime, get this half-inch reel-to-reel 8 track." All right, it was like a Tascam TSR 8, and I got advanced about $60,000 because I signed a publishing deal. I had so many songs with the publishing deal was with Warner Chappell. And I took the money, had legal bills, dealing with the contract, bought my first car, bought all the studio gear, and I just started recording more music. And I never went to the studio with that label. It was almost a year. And I was like, what are you guys up? They just didn't know what they were doing. And so I attracted the attention of a production company in Memphis called Ardent. And that's when, around the time I met Shawn Lane,
Yeah.
because now, guitar for me was kind of like the drums. I was playing guitar and drums and stuff all the time as a kid, just always writing music and stuff. And like right now, I have a Patreon where I'm demonstrating how I became me with all the music and stuff. So
Interesting.
anyway, um I went to Art and they actually put me in the studio. Eric Gales, the guitarist, he was about 17 at the time,
Wow.
and they got him a deal with Elektra, a 2 album deal, which is great because it didn't suck you in. It was like just 2 albums. We called them Neglectra records. But anyway, this was the early 90s.
Yeah.
So, and I recorded these tunes, and the record company saw the potential of it. This is 1990 when I Want to Sex You Up and Color Me Bad. The whole shredder thing was over with.
Yeah.
And I was just had this sound that didn't sound like anybody. So record company people, they don't know me. They're not there for the music. If it's not prepackaged for them, they
Yeah.
really don't
Yep.
know what to make of it. It wasn't even music to them. And but I give it to artists. They tried their best. We did a showcase and stuff like that. When I met Angelo, he was like, "Hey, I know Shawn Lane. He's a buddy of mine." And I said, "Oh yeah, I just read about him." And we went over to his house and hung out. It was like before YouTube. Shawn had all of these videos and laser discs and the surround sound and all these kind of speakers and everything. And we just hung out. I'm like, I'm reading about the guy. Here I am with him. And so months later, Shawn had asked me, the record company, they still weren't interested in me. I was just too weird for them. And so that's when I became a career drummer because I needed a job. And Shawn calls me up. I was playing with this reggae band here in the DC area, and Shawn calls me up and says, "Hey man, I got this deal with Warner Brothers, and this guy Jim Ed Norman from Nashville signed me. He's the same guy that signed the Jocko Word of Mouth and Take
Mm.
Six and all of that stuff, um, and Shawn, they signed. Now Shawn's first or only record was Powers of
Powers
10,
of 10. Yeah.
and that was a demo. Um, and he did it 6 years earlier. So when I got to Memphis, it's like we were rehearsing all this stuff, and the keyboard player was just dictating some parts to him. And I said, Shawn, you did all the instruments. How come? Don't you know this stuff? He goes, that was 6 years ago, man. I don't remember anything. And I said, oh
Oh
wow.
shit.
We went on tour, and that was interesting. I decided to move to LA because Shawn did not. We did this tour, and he had everything in his back pocket, but he just was like a recluse. He wanted to stay in Memphis, and he goes, "Let's do like less shows but bigger ones." And I was like, "Dude, I'm 22 years old. I don't want to. I've been in Memphis long enough. 8 months. It seemed like 10 years. I'll go out to LA. Let me know when you want to start up." So I was out in LA, and that was just like the worst time ever. It was I had zero gigs. I was doing some gigs with my father and some other people. I was playing like I was doing whatever I could get,
Yeah.
coffee houses, stuff like that, and it was cool. I look back on it; it was pretty interesting. And people knew me from the Shawn Lane stuff because we did MI and all of that. And I just kept recording stuff. I had my studio set up at a friend's house, and I just kept making music. I come back. There was an earthquake that was big in Northridge. It was 5 miles from my house, the epicenter. It was, and I just had it with LA. I come back to this area, and I just started working and working, and then I did records with Angelo Bofill, a couple other gigs and stuff like that. And I just kept making recordings, no matter what. And my third record is called Archives, and those demos, just like a bunch of
Well,
songs on there that I recorded on this gear. And, I just took those and remastered them and put them out. And so after, during my career, and then hooking up with Steve Coleman and everything and
yeah, I want
other
to go into
people,
these things, yeah, later a bit.
I just kept recording music. And then I finally, I didn't think the quality was up to par. So it wasn't until I was in my 40s, until my first record I released in 2012.
Yeah, the
And
one,
I was
right? Yeah,
torn,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And that was done in the current studio I have now. Um, and I've just gone through a divorce and stuff like that. It was just like I was living in three different places. I got rid of my house, but I kept my studio at a friend's house. I was living that musician life. And but I always kept recording and releasing albums. And my life slowly came back together. And then I moved up to Connecticut for a while, and I started my website lessons and everything. I released my second album, Zoom, and then I came back to this area. And there's a lot of touring and traveling and making records with other people during all this time. I'm just trying to squeeze this all. And then I did okay, there was Zoom. Then I released the archives. That was during
Yeah.
COVID. I got this house here in Rockville for a couple of years, and that was great. And I just sat there and did a bunch of music. And then I put out my fourth record 2 years ago, called Oh So Very Much.
Yeah, that's some killing stuff, man, there. Really,
Thanks. And so
really
as
cool.
far as the way I would write, I would write from the guitar, or I would hear things in completion, or I would hear a line in my head and all that. Now, from the drums, I wrote this song a while ago called Back Corner Door. And I remember I played just the drum part. I had no idea I was just, got, got, and I had little breaks. I just like, I'm going to play it like there's an intro, there's some breaks, and all of that stuff. Because the song in my head was going to be a lot busier and more fusiony. But then it came out a totally different way. I said, wow, I really like this. I don't, I like writing from the drums. Because if you write for me, if I write from, let's say, like a pianist or a guitarist or something,
Yeah,
the rhythm is one of the last things you think about. Because at that
yeah,
point, you're just going to put a beat to it. And
exactly.
so when I did the drums first, it was the other way around. I had this drum part, and then I had to make something sound like it wasn't pretentious, like it was as natural as the other way. And I like doing that a lot better because I had no I was always surprised with the results. It was nothing harmonically or anything like it, and that's how I'm doing things now. So Oh So Very Much was nothing but drums first. And I
Interesting.
probably recorded about 40 tracks and picked like 15. There's too many tunes on that record, but I picked 15 albums because I release records like every 4 years or something. So I wanted to
Yeah.
get a good body of work. And now I'm in another house. I'm always moving. I got a bigger place now, and we're under renovation. And I just set up a temporary setup because we're painting and doing electrical work down there. And it's the same thing. I recorded 30 drum tracks
Wow.
in October and November. And then I selected 10 of them. And those are the songs I'm working on. I have a guitar rig set up in my living room. And I just come in and hash out bass lines and guitar stuff and vocals. And then, my studio will probably be finished around late spring. Um, and then I'm just going to go ahead and release another one. So now I'm putting
Interesting.
together a band because I've only done this stuff live. And live, I'll be playing guitar and vocals
Ah,
and
interesting.
in front of a, yeah, because I've always wanted to do that. And visually, you know, it's cool to see. I have a band called Big Mouth, right? And we do all stuff that no one does. And I got these phenomenal musicians. We do Hot for Teacher, and we do Hendrix and Prince, and all of these tunes are Rush and whatever that we like. We don't care what the audience thinks, and it works great because everybody doesn't hear these songs live,
Yeah.
with a guy doing the vocals like that, doing those songs. But visually, it's geeky. It's like the drummer singing,
Yeah.
you got to be upfront. You got to
The
be.
presence, yeah, the stage presence, and
You can't really talk to the ladies behind the drums, man. I'm sorry. So that I hope that answers your question.
it does.
All that.
It's amazing because it's like I didn't know that, heavy on so many jazz CDs, obviously, from Steve and Shawn Lane and Andy Milne and Michelle and all these amazing musicians, but I didn't know about that. And then I went to your Bandcamp and I was like, man,
Yeah.
completely, like I always saw
And
you
that's funny how you
as an
found me
amazing drummer,
because thanks. The people, some of my friends, your friends don't know your artist side, so they're like, why are you, why are you on the record with no shirt on and your fingers are painted? I was like, cause that's the Rick. That ain't got Sean Rickman, the musician, the person. That's the Rick. That's talk
persona.
to
Yeah.
him. You know. But yeah. So it was always something for fun.
But that's great. That's how it should
Something
be, right? In
for
a way.
fun. Yeah. And I'm a guitar geek. I don't consider myself a guitar player, but a lot of guitar players do, especially my father. And I grew up with I met Holdsworth. I went over to his house.
Oh man, how was that
Uh,
like?
this was during Secrets, and
Oof.
so I had all kinds of jobs and stuff, and I was good at all of them. And at that time, I was running a telemarketing floor. We were selling timeshares at the beach, and I was the floor supervisor. So I'm like 18, 19 years old, bossing people twice my age around, and I would play all this music. And I used to smoke cigarettes back then. So all I did was smoke cigarettes, drink coffee, and play these tunes. And one day I'm playing all this stuff, and this girl goes, I know about jazz. And I go, oh, really? What do you know? She goes, well, my grandfather's Art Blakey. And I went, oh,
What?
right. And so when Secrets was out, I remember that specifically. I go out to California, back to that. And my father goes, hey, man, I met your boy Alan at NAM. I said, oh, yeah? Call him up. And we went down his house. He lived in Tustin, California, which is near what is it? Where Disneyland is.
Yeah.
What's it called? Uh, what's that spot called where Nam is? It's the
Yeah. Oh shit.
starts
Yeah.
with an A. Oh, all right. So we were down there. We go to his house, and he was dressed like Mr. Rogers. He had a sweater and a little collar. He's real clean cut, and then he's got the Chuck Taylors on, right? And I remember he was just waiting for us on the stoop, and we walk in. Tustin, California. That's what that
Oh
town
yeah.
was called. And Anaheim. That's what I'm talking about. It's
Anaheim.
outside of
Yeah.
Anaheim.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we go in his house, and it was Christmas. It was Christmas '89, and the first Nintendo just came out. The 8-bit graphics. So his kids were playing the Nintendo. I said, hi to the family. We go around to the back. It was like a Rambler house. And a lot of people, I was always like, how come California houses don't have basements? We're thinking earthquakes. It has nothing to do with it. It's because they don't need a basement because the pipes don't freeze in California. That's why we have basements, right? So there are some homes with basements in California, but I was just mystified by that. But anyway, we go around to the back. We have these German shepherds and stuff, and there was a big open room, and that was his studio. And you see the red syntax, you see the gray syntax, and then you see this mixing board. And we had now the Mackie came out after that, but I've never seen a mixing board that thin and long and really specific. It looked like a line mixer. And he goes, yeah, I mixed Secrets on that record. I'm like all fascinated. And he was playing the Steinbergers at the
Yeah.
time. And I was like, hey, Alan, play something. And he freezes up like everybody. He goes, I don't know what to play. I was like, come on, man, anything. So he had the breath controller and everything. And he launches into Pudwood. Yeah. And it's in these stereo monitors. And you can hear the stereo. And when I played the guitar, I hit it just to hear. And it would go. He had that ping pong thing happen. And I played his syntax.
Oh,
I
wow,
don't know if
man.
you ever played one.
No, I mean I know it from his records, but
It's like a VCR with a guitar in it. You got these strings down here, and then you got these other strings here
yeah,
because they're trigger and MIDI. So you're not feeling the vibration of the string that you're hitting. It's a different experience. It's
wow,
kind of like playing a keyboard. And then you got the whammy bar, but there's no bridge. That's a MIDI controller too. It's a whole different thing.
wow, I
And
never
then there's
played
these
it.
push buttons that act as playing the strings too. It was a different thing. And so he goes, "Hey, you went." He was very nice. He was just indulging me. He goes, "You want to borrow it? I can lend it to you." I was like, "Man, Holsworth, that's deep." No, I mean the cable that hooked up to that thing. It looked like the Matrix thing that you put in the back of your neck. It was just. I was like, "Wow, man, this is deep." But yeah, that was
Man,
something, man. And I've hooked up with Alan a number of times after that. But yeah,
wow.
that
But you
was
never
pretty
played
cool.
with him, right?
No, no, because I was into my career. That was 1990, and I really didn't start going on the road a lot until well, a little bit 92,
Hmm.
93. I'd done some. I was more in the studio and stuff, but it really wasn't until like the mid 90s, and I was in full swing a lot. And I would just run into them here and there. I run into Herbie. I remember I hung out with everybody. George Benson. Uh, I had dinner with him. I remember him telling me about the Old Testament and life and death. And I got stories for days. Eric Eric Gale. He was dying of cancer at the time. I met him. Phyllis Hyman, Shaka
Oh,
Khan,
man.
Hugh Masekela.
Oh, it's
Uh,
amazing.
a lot of people. It was just like high school, but with these people. Yeah.
It's amazing.
When I was at Shaka's house, she was having a get together. Everybody was there, and she's at the barbecue with the cigarette in her mouth, and she had Led Zeppelin going. And I was like, "So Shaka, you like Led Zeppelin?" She's like, "Oh yeah, man, yeah." Just like regular folks. Good stuff.
Amazing, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, Alan was so good, man. I mean, I still like when I do these interviews, like I try to interview everyone who played with Alan, and just to hear,
Hmm.
how it was, especially drummers, and how their perspective was of hearing the music. It's interesting to hear the stories, by Chad Wackerman and Gary Husband, and how critical he was, Alan. Like after every gig I've heard, he was just like, nah, really depressed that it was the worst gig, and he played like
Typical. That's how Andy
really
Mill
interesting.
was.
Yeah,
That's how Shawn Lane was.
Sean
Uh,
was the same.
well, yeah, well, everybody gets like that
Hmm.
because they're thinking it seems depressing. They're just frustrated with the sound and the sound check and it just getting that perfect sound. And you don't really understand it until you do it yourself. The monitors ain't right, this and that. I mean, when I was with Sean, we were playing in Monterey, California, and I remember the joint. I think the place was called Doc Ricketts. You can't forget a name like that. And I just remember being there. And Sean was kind of upset. He was rushing me and stuff, and I was like, "Just go, whatever." G." I was just blocking him out. And he was saying, "I remember it." He said, "Hey man, just put your drums where they need to be. Don't worry about it." I was like, "Why don't you worry about your shit, Mister Guitar Pedal and knobs, and don't be. I'm done. Don't be looking at me. You do your thing." And then he goes back in the green room. He was just pacing. He goes, "Man, I ought to drink a half of every beer in here just to spite these mofos." I said, "What?" He said he was pissed because they were rushing him, you know. But the gigs were great, and he was a sweetheart, and um, it was just great playing with him. It's just such a fast time that
Yeah.
that tour going out west and playing in those places. But I remember those days. Like I remember our last gig was in Oxnard, California, and it was a nice show. It was like a Saturday, 3 p.m. Real nice weather, and I gave the sound guy that. and I documented some shows, and that became the Powers of Ten live
Live, yeah,
album because I gave it to him, and he overdubbed some things and made that the record. So yeah.
interesting. Yeah, it's just there's some footage of you guys on YouTube, and it's just, man, it's just,
Yeah.
yeah, because there's
I'm doing a documentary about him right now.
really, oh man, that's
Yeah,
fantastic.
there's been talk because the other people in Memphis tried to do it, but there were some members of Sean's family that weren't really wise about how this business works, where they were threatening them. Oh, they were all about money, like, oh, you can't do any of that stuff without our permission and all that. And it's like, no, actually, anybody could do this. It doesn't, and we'd love to work along with you, but you guys are coming across like that. Not
Mm.
his whole family, just a specific member who was really making things difficult. And we were like, look, Sean wasn't a rich guy. Nobody's making any money. I only made $500 during that tour. It was a promotional tour. It had nothing to do with money. I don't even think the other guys made anything. You know,
Sure.
we were there. We borrowed uh, Eric Johnson's road manager, a guy named Steve Bondo.
Oh
Joe
man.
Priesnitz was Eric Johnson's management, and Joe assigned Steve. Steve used to work with Stevie Ray Vaughan, and that's the first time I've seen non-alcoholic beer. And Steve was like, smoke weed, but he wouldn't drink alcohol. He would drink O'Doul's, and I was like, yuck, what is that? Because he was, from that life. They were doing a lot of stuff. And I was like, oh, okay. And he told me the stories, and um, yeah, just learned a lot and everything. And then we opened up for Robin Ford's group for
Oh
the
man.
first three shows in Austin, and in Houston at Rockefellers, and one more other place I can't remember. And then we did the rest of the tour on our own.
Wow.
And little did I know that would be the only Shawn Lane solo venture, because after that, he just went back into Memphis. And see, some people were trying to overthink it. They're like, well, his music was different and it wasn't as commercial. I was like, no, that's what the outsiders think. It
Mm.
doesn't matter what your music sounds like. It matters what your relationships with people are, just
Yeah.
like any business. And if somebody is behind your sound and vision, then it's going to happen. It doesn't matter.
Yep.
That's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
And so Sean was just a little awkward with people in maintaining those types of relationships. Had he had like a personal manager that was a friend to him, and it's like the Jimi Hendrix, he needed a Chaz Chandler,
Yeah.
pretty much.
Yeah.
Like a
Yeah.
lot of
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. 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 I still think he's quite underrated. Like it's like he's quite a guitarist in a way. Like I mean, even I teach a lot, and guitarists don't know him. It's almost like he's a musician's musician in a way, like a hidden diamond still. It's like Holdsworth. I mean,
Hmm.
Holdsworth is a little bit wider known, I think, but Shawn Lane is really like
Well,
should.
again, that's because of exposure.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
You can have a zillion records, right? But if you're not playing live,
yeah.
especially these days, everybody's putting out a record, you know? And so, how do you sift through all of that stuff? I remember when I was on the road with Steve, people are always giving me. I had what was called the TBE files, which is kind of cruel, to be erased, because there were all of these things that just sucked. People giving you this and that, and then you don't want to listen to something. And I remember I discovered a very brilliant guitarist who made a great record. His name is Tim Miller,
I
right?
love Tim, man. He's
Tim.
from Boston,
So
yeah,
Tim gave
sure.
me this. He gave me a CD, and I would keep the stuff. I would give it a chance. Then the CDs came on. So if the CD wasn't happening, I would get rid of everything and save the blank cases for whatever. Right. So I'm getting ready to. I was vacuuming the room, and I put this CD on, and I heard this, and I was like, "Oh, okay. Who is this? Wow, something good." And I looked up. This was like the year 2000 or something.
Yeah,
So I just got my first computer. Well, it wasn't my first computer, but my Dell. And I started going online. That's when I got my first email. And I looked this guy up. I was like, oh, there's a guy in Boston. And then when I met him later through a bass player, Josh Davis,
Hmm.
uh, I learned Tim was teaching in Berkeley, and he said, "Yeah, I ran into you at a Fnac in Paris, and I gave you this thing. You were doing a clinic with Steve." And I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, things come around, you know."
Yeah,
Yeah.
interesting. You mentioned Steve now a couple of times, and I remember I saw you with Steve the first time, like in 2001 or something like that, must have been in Europe, or
Mm-hmm.
2002,
Mm-hmm.
with Anthony Tidd and Jonathan,
Yeah,
and it
that
was
sounds
just
right.
like, man, you know, I've been a huge Steve fan, like from the 80s, from Muddle and Pulse, you know,
Mm-hmm.
the Smitty stuff,
Yeah.
and then you came, and it was just like, what's going on there? How did you meet Steve? And
Well, you can
how,
thank Gene Lake for that.
ah,
Um, Two people put me on the scene more than I did myself because I was like a recluse in my basement, doing my thing. And there's my friend Federico Pena, the keyboard player,
mhm.
and he was in Michelle and Cello's band for a while. He's basically her MD and arranger. And I met Federico. Everything comes around. I was checking Holsworth out here at the Birchmere, and I was rapping to Holsworth. And then my friends go, "Oh, Shawn knows Al. Whoa!" And somebody goes, "Hey, let's go to this party at this guy's house. He's got all these drum sets and stuff like that." So I'm like, okay. So I go over there, hang out, and drink a bunch. I was drinking like Budweiser back then. And this guy comes up to me and goes, "I heard about you. Your friend in high school told me about you, blah, blah, blah. And he's been talking about you and talking about you." And then finally I was like, "Where is this guy?" And I was like, "I don't want to hear about him no more until I meet him." And here you are. And so Federico and I became tight. And Federico said, he goes, and we started gigging a lot. And he goes, "I'm very spoiled. I have you in town, and then I have Gene Lake on the road. I'm very spoiled." And then I met
That's
Gene, and then Gene turned me on to some the gigs he couldn't do with and it came time with that's how I met Michelle, and
yeah.
then uh I was gonna do some stuff with Screaming Headless Torsos. I was on the road with this singer Maxwell, the R&B singer,
I love Maxwell. Yeah.
and I hated working
Re
with him.
Really? How come?
He was a dick.
Oh, fuck. Okay. The records
I
are
mean, but
nice.
yeah, of course. But he was a young kid. He was 21.
Okay.
He was socially awkward. I totally forgive him now, but then it was just like he was really uptight and really uptight. He had a great band. He basically borrowed Michelle's band. Mike Neal on bass, Federico, all of that. He wanted Gene was on the record. Gene was busy. I did the record. And he didn't like me either because I didn't kiss his butt. I was just like all business. I was like, all right, let's do it. Let's go. I was all business. And even though it sounded great, he was just like, this guy's not kissing my butt. He wanted to get rid of me from day, but I really didn't give a shit, you know. So I just did the gigs and all of that. And then and it's funny because I got fired or I fired myself for both after that tour. And then I run into the guy at North Sea like months later. I was like, "Dude, you didn't harm me at all. I've been doing this. I've been an OG since I was 5 years old. So just and I always wanted to tell him, dude, you always sounded great." That's just, but anyway, that's how I got put on to things. So Gene says, "Hey man, Steve's looking for a new drummer."
And
And then my friends here started saying,
you knew about Steve already, like his music and stuff?
yeah, because my friend okay, that party I went to
Hmm.
at the Holsworth show, I became friends with this guy. His name is Sean also. He's a drummer. Now, this is in Arlington. Sean lived about two doors away from Al Gore at the time, right? So there's like Secret Service dudes over there. And we would go over there and just smoke a lot of pot and listen to a bunch of music and stuff. And Sean would be all paranoid. He's like, "When you come here, bring a guitar case with you, man." Because them dudes, I was like, "Them dudes ain't thinking about you." Right? And he was like, had all these CDs, and he goes, "Hey man, you got to hear the Black Science." I said, "The Black Science, okay, cool."
Yeah.
And he goes, and he kept mentioning it, but he never put it on. I said, "What is the Black Science? Is that a band? Is it a song?" And he played Turbulence,
Yeah.
and I said, huh. So I checked that out, and I can hear it's not instantly, but I heard the shapes, right? And I just played the stuff that I liked or thought I was playing. So fast forward, the Steve Coleman audition is happening like 3 years after that, and Steve is beatboxing stuff to me. This is up in New York, and there's like a line around the corner. It was like Jaws came out or something, man. It was like, and I didn't give a shit then. I was just like, I'm not gonna get this gig, but I'm just gonna go up and hang out and check some drummers out and all of that. And I go in there and I just start playing, and Steve was like, "This is the guy," and I got scared. I was like, "Oh, I didn't come here. I was just hanging out. I can't learn all that stuff." He's like, "Yeah, yeah, this is it." And he goes, "By the way, do you know any bass players?" I was like, "What?" Well, yeah. And I got Dave Dyson in there. But anyway, when we were doing that, I said, "Hey man, let's play Turbulence." He's like, "You want to do that?" I was like, "Yeah." So we go into it. And then they were like, "Okay, okay." And Steve goes, "Okay, there's an exact drum part going on, but you definitely got the shapes going on. So just the fact that you can hear that, that's cool." I said, "Oh, because Marvin's doing a lot of improv. He plays the actual drum chant twice.
Yeah, then
Like
he kind of opens it up. Yeah.
he opens it up and then he goes back to it at the end, at the last tag out." And so, yeah, man. And then, and then Steve was just real brutal. He would dictate stuff to me on stage for that first tour, 6 weeks. And it was just you sitting there, and I'm like, "Oh man, I thought, when am I going to be in a band? When I'm like hanging and doing tunes. I don't want to go back to school. I mean, come on, I hate school, right?" And I'd be on stage, but I just dealt with it. I was always used to being under the gun. And after about a year and a half of that, I started saying, "Okay, he's looking. Okay, I think I know what he wants." And so I started doing my own parts, and he was like, "There it is." And then he started
Mm.
leaving me alone. Now, to this day, he has some exact parts he wants me to check out, and then he would never show me music, and that
So
was
no,
frustrating.
no
I was
lead
like,
sheets like for you, for instance. Oh wow,
"Nah,"
interesting.
and I'd be like, "Come on, dude, come on." And he had some. He was like, "No," and I was like, "Why?" He goes,
That's
"Because I
amazing.
don't want you to get dependent on that." And I was like, "Come on, man, I got to tighten up my sight reading. I'm off. Come on, I'm not Vinny. But let's do it, you know." And and that kicked me in the butt later because then it came time when he was orchestrating everything, and it had to be like that. But and I was like, "Why don't you call Marcus Gilmore for that stuff?" Because Marcus is spot
Sure.
on. But yeah, it was always by ear
Wow.
with a lot of stuff, and because it is better to know it. It's one way. It's like classical musicians. If you take that music away, they can't play anything because they're not
Yes.
that genre's not based off of improvisation or anything. So this was the other way around. But it's better. It's best to hear it first and to be able to put it on paper if you can.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that's what I would say. Yeah.
Yeah. Because with jazz musicians, usually you get the sheet music and then you try to memorize it by gig three. You're basically doing the other way, right? You hear it and you
Yeah.
immediately know it, and
Yes.
that's the best way.
It,
Yeah.
it's a conversation. You have to learn how to talk. You have to stick to the points and the bullet points and all of those things.
Yeah.
This is a language. So the more you know about whatever it is, the more you can do, or when to do things and when not to.
Yeah.
Just like anything, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I listened yesterday to you did those two Life of the Village Vanguards, right? I think last year they came
Uh-huh.
out. Not 2 years, last.
Yeah.
And shit, that's some complex shit there. That's like from drummer's
Hmm.
perspective and compositionally.
Yes.
I mean, how did you remember all that, or what was the work process, let's say, for that project, or like for that group, which is kind of more or less the same now for 15 years. I mean, it's you, Anthony, and Jonathan always, I think, and then Miles
It always
sometimes.
goes back to when I going back to doing my own music, knowing the parts.
Mm.
Like when I check out drum, people go, "In your band, who are you going to get on the drums?" And I'm like, I'm not looking for a guy with the chops. I'm looking for a person who has that ear, just like Steve, just like any. The drummer is what the band. Okay, Narda Michael Walton said it best. What did he say? He said, "It's always about the drummer." For instance, if you take really phenomenal musicians and you have an okay drummer,
Yeah, it's
that
gonna
band's
sound bad.
really not gonna. But if you flip it, if you got a real great drummer and just average musician, that band's gonna sound tight. I was like, oh yeah, like Led Zeppelin, or like a lot of bands.
True, actually,
And
yeah.
it's like if Rolling Stones, you got if Charlie, what everybody's talking about. I remember somebody said, "Hey Charlie, you don't hit the hi hat with the snare drum." You're like, spot, spot, and Charlie's like, "I can do that shit. I just don't want to. That's my sound. That's that open snare, man."
Yeah,
And if Charlie wasn't playing like that, that stuff would be all over the place. With
yeah,
with Keith and all of them, it would be all over the place.
yeah. No, no, true, absolutely, absolutely. I mean,
Yes.
yeah, but
But Steve stuff, it was just like hearing those parts because in
mm,
my songs, the bass and does certain things. The drums, like in the bridge, there's certain things with the cymbals and the hi hats, and you can't just autopilot the stuff, or it just won't work.
yeah,
So you have to know the composition, the arrangement, and that's exactly the same. Not just with Steve, but a lot of people. Some people, the drums, they just want a backbeat or something. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But then there are other people where the drums have to be as part of the composition.
yes, yeah,
Like if you look at the Beatles, like In My Life,
yeah,
you remember, dude, that
yeah,
dude
yeah, absolutely.
got a lot of stuff where the drums, and it doesn't. Of course, somebody else could do their own version where there's no drums. But to have that one identifier, that mark of that the original form of whatever that stuff is, in many cases, the drums are very much part of the
Oh,
song.
come together. Like the Beatles have so many songs like that, right? Like,
Yep. Jimmy, Rush. I mean,
yeah,
I can go on and on.
yeah,
Iron Maiden.
yeah,
Uh, a lot of stuff.
yeah. I mean, even something basic like AC/DC, if you take like Phil Roth's basic
Yes.
drum beat, I mean, shit, it's really basic, but it's so
Yeah.
there. It's like on the
I
point. And
still I'm still such a drum geek. I don't talk about it as much because I don't want to spoil people with that drum talk because it's about everybody else too. But if I'm to sit here and talk about drummers, we could talk about Nico McBrain for an hour. Like we could talk about what's my favorite Maiden record? Peace of Mind.
okay,
To Tame a Land. If you check the drums out, that is super funky. What when he's like Scott, do got do boom boom Scott, do got a
interesting.
boom boom. But I was like, what? And he's doing pedaled hats. He's like Scott, don't you got? I was like, yo, that's man. And what's his name? He's got Ferdio, Vinny Appice.
Oh yeah, sure. Who played with Jeff Beck and those
Um,
guys? Yeah,
Now, let's not leave the brothers out. When we talk P Funk, right?
yeah.
Um, okay, of course, people want to talk about Dennis, but my man, oh my gosh, I should have had his name written right here. I got it on the tip of my.
For
I
me, only
went.
Dennis comes to mind, man.
Yeah, but no, 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 no. Okay, we'll go back to that later. I got my laptop.
Wait a second.
I'm gonna look because this cat is just very crucial
Oh,
before Dennis.
Jerome Bigfoot
Um,
Braley.
Boom.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
what I'm talking about.
He was before
Him.
Dennis. Yeah.
Yes. Tony Thompson. From Chic.
Oh, oh man. Yeah.
Uh, and even if you look at like simple stuff like Addicted to Love, Robert Palmer, that drum part, boom, da, boom, da,
Yeah.
boom, da, boom. Yeah, it's like that's iconic, you know.
Yeah.
All of that stuff. I'm doing a funk series right now on my Patreon, and I just did a video today. I posted "We Supply" on a Stanley Clark record.
Mm.
Louis Johnson's on, and it's great when you hear the mix. You got Louis Johnson on one side, and you got Stanley Clark doing it. And then you got Louis, and Greg Rico and Andy Newmark and all of these really phenomenal players.
Yeah.
And then we can go into the James Brown, but never underestimate the pocket because people say, "Oh yeah,
Oh,
pocket." I'm like, yeah, but you have to think like a dancer. What it's like to dance to this stuff. You can't just be the machine back here because if you play real simple and you just go on autopilot and there's no intention, it will sound like that. You
mm.
really have to be connected to the weights. And drummers talk about time signatures. It's like forget the time signature. Think about the shapes and the weights because when people say, "How do you remember all that?" Like you said, "How do you remember all that Steve stuff?" I was like, because they have certain identities to them. That's how I look at all music. Like if I'm looking at there's one group that I love to play, but we never play it. It's on the first record I did with Steve was a double album, Genesis
Genesis,
and
yeah,
the
I have
Open
that. I mean,
of the
I have
Wonder.
all the CDs, yeah.
I want to say it's day 5. Do that, do that, do
Yeah.
that, do that, do that, do oh that that oh that do that do that do get
Yeah.
through that do. It's one big shape.
It's
I look at
20
it
years
like do
ago, man, and you
that
know it. That's
that
crazy.
do. It's like do that do that do that do that do top. That stays with me, right? And it's not just one drum loop going on. There'll be other things inserted, just like a bridge or a first ending, a second ending, or just something happens. Just like James Brown.
Yeah.
If you listen to "Give It Up, Turn It Loose," that track, they're live in the studio, and James is giving them the arrangement right there, and they make mistakes. He goes, "It's on the ooh and the ah." A lot of people think he's doing no, he's directing the band. He's going, "Baby, give it up, turn it loose," and then he goes, "Huh," and when he goes, "Huh," that cues the horns, da 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 da
Yeah,
da
yeah, that's
da,
crazy.
and then when he goes, "Ah," that cues the next section, and then he goes, "Ah," then it goes back to the top. These little cues are everywhere. That's where Steve Coleman
Yeah,
got that from, and George Clinton. You
interesting.
know, I got this video where Dennis is on drums and they're playing and then George is like this, he's going relax because Dennis is speeding up, he's like relax, and I can hear as a musician like he's doing all this adjusting as the band leader on stage, and it's incredible, man. Genius.
Man. But I wanted to ask you, like, okay, there's Steve music, and then there you have Trickster. Let's say Miles' band, Miles Okazaki's. And I've known Miles for a long time, and that's some complex shit, man. So, how do you deal with that music then? I mean, because I think he's notorious for like really heavy stuff, especially rhythmically. I mean, what's the work process there, especially for you? Let's say, I mean,
When Miles did his first record, we were doing a residency of Philadelphia and another one in Chicago. And Miles would be sitting there working on stuff. And I had my drum set there. And he would go down and work it out on my drum set. And he would just
oh,
sit there and do things. And he's like, "Yeah, man, I'm trying to make sure this works." And I'm like, "You're not a drummer, but hey," and he's real good friends with Dan Weiss,
yeah,
right?
sure.
And so Dan and Miles used to come watch us in the '90s and the late '90s when at the Knitting Factory and all of that. I didn't know them then, but It's similar to how Anthony Tidd did his Quiet Sane record. You know,
Mm,
you see these guys off in the corner, and they're intensely involved in what they're doing. And Miles is the same way. He would be in composition. So when he would hand it to me, it was kind of similar to the Steve thing. They say, "Hey man, I got this line, and it goes like this," but then there's this drum chant under it that's going like this. And some things I would instantly hear, and other things I would have to put it together. You know. And now Miles had all the drum charts, and then he would write stuff based off of stuff that I was doing, like my double bass thing.
yeah.
I would do this little warm up where I go do 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 do, and then he made it kind of complicated. He was like, "We're gonna do that 10 times, and then at the 10th time it's gonna go bop bop." And I was like, "Oh man, now I gotta think about this." And then it would be a layer over top and
Yeah.
another thing and
That
come
makes it
around
heavy.
together.
The layers.
Yeah, so it's a matter of repetition. I would say the easiest way to explain all of this is to remember the route it takes to get to that place. And
Mm,
then if you never learn the names of the streets, then you're going to remember the landmarks and little things like that. And that's the best way I could describe
interesting.
all of this stuff. And that makes it more simple. Now there's some things that I just straight can't hear, like I'm turned around on. One of those things, I don't think there's a name for it. It's a Steve thing, and he loves to play it. He likes to play what I don't know. He likes that struggle.
Yeah.
You know? I'm like, why does he do that? I don't have this one together. But that's why he likes. And then he would start doing that in the studio. And I would get pissed off, man. I was like, man. Now, there's one side of me is like, Sean, nobody's going to know. He said, y'all. But then my ego's like, I can't let it win. I have to have it. So that's certain people. Prince would have those same type of musicians. As I
Yeah.
said, Prince, do you find your musicians like James Brown and stuff? You know, he goes, I used to, but they care so much about things, I don't have to do that. You know, I get those type of people it's a respect. They have the respect for their composition. So with Miles's stuff, um, the same thing. Like there's something I have it in my head. Do that, do that, do that, do that. And then the first record he goes, everything's in four. And I'm like, for real? Now there's another guy like that, Sam Rivers.
Oh, I'm a huge Sam Rivers fan. Yeah.
Sam Rivers, you go look at the music, and they're playing in different meters and stuff. But you look at the music, everything's written in four. And we say, Sam, everything's written in four. He goes, it's not in four, but I write it in four because that's the only way I can get them to read it. I'm like, and that's crazy. How do you do that? People are just crazy, and everybody got their own kind of cray cray.
Yeah. Interesting.
And we could talk about it and talk about it. So, but I'll tell you one funny story. I don't know if it's true, but I heard about John Coltrane. Elvin would go, so John, he said, John, so do you have any suggestions? And John would go, I don't know. You the one that plays drums. And you got that. You know?
Yeah.
Dizzy Gillespie was the guy that was holding court in his house. He was holding personal workshops. He was the guy that was going the extra mile to explain things and to geek out. But it just depends on that person. Some people like you to not know.
Yeah.
Because they're getting something out of you that works. And
I think that's
so
Steve's way. Just to push it right and
yes. And there's some times where now the older he's getting, the more he's getting normalized. Like when we did that last record, the Polytropos.
yeah.
He wanted to get certain things and at the live show. And that was the first time where he was like, nah, we got to do it again. I was like, oh, really? We're going to do it again? Wow. And so it just depends on where a person is at that time. But in Steve's case, he's done so much stuff his way that now he's trying. I mean, just yesterday, I can't. This is a secret. He's talking to me about what I thought about AI, and I'm like, nah, don't, Steve. You have not gone through all of this to give it away to Skynet, okay? But he goes, no, man, but he's got something. But I said, you already did this a long time ago with Earcom in 1999. In
Mm.
1999, we were in this place in Paris where they had these computers, and Steve was really into astrology then,
Yep.
and so he would assign certain phrases and rhythms and lines to dates. So he had this guy named Takahiko from Japan, and this kid programmed like hundreds of dates I don't know if they were significant or not. And so the computer would tell me to play in duple feel or triple feel, and it would tell me exactly what meter, like play in
Wow.
seven, duple. Okay, and then right here, and the only thing I had manipulation over was how fast if there was a piece of chewing gum or clay or just wire on my ride and my hat, and I could control the tempo. But other than that, and he didn't release this stuff. It's brilliant. And I said, Steve, you were
Wow.
ahead of this AI thing back then. You know,
Yeah.
I think he's just experimenting. He's always looking for something new
Yeah.
and stuff. Uh,
It's
but
amazing.
it's funny. He was just talking about that yesterday.
You,
Yeah.
you've been playing with him for almost 30 years now. Almost.
In a 30-year period.
That's
Yeah,
incredible,
yeah,
man.
yeah.
That's fascinating.
I met Steve when I was 25. Now I'm 55. Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
you're the longest drummer in his band, definitely.
But there's been, there's a lot to say for the other ones. If you talk, it's funny. Marvin doesn't like talking about those years. He was on a show. Marvin has definitely moved on. And Steve says, "Hey man, you got to hear those last couple gigs that Marvin did, because Marvin was like really letting all of his frustration and anger towards Steve personally out on those performances. So and Steve said, man, Marvin let them drums have it. You got to hear this. I got to push Steve to pull those DAT tapes out. So I really want to check out.
Oh, yeah.
Well, because when I checked more Marvin out with Dave Holland,
Oh,
Turning Point
that's amazing stuff.
and Spirit Talk and that stuff,
With Kevin, yeah.
Marvin's like a rock dude. He sounds like a rock drummer,
Yeah, very,
and
yeah.
he's rocking it out on Invitation and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And when we played in recently in London, I met the British guy. Oh my gosh, he's got a brother. He's on McLaughlin's record, and Dave Holland's on that same record. It's Mark Mendesi. Mark Mendesi, you know him?
Mark
He's a
Mendes.
drummer out of
Mark
London.
Mondesier. Mondeser.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
Mondesi.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Sure.
We say Mondesi, but yeah,
Sorry.
Mondesi.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Killing drummer. Yeah.
yeah, yep,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
See,
Yeah.
we could talk for days and days. I would never stop. You know.
Oh man, well,
On
you
what?
gotta come here for we go out for beers and cevapcici here in Slovenia.
Oh
We-
wow, Slovenia. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah. But
right on.
Sean, not to take too much of your time, I just wanted to ask you about also your experience playing with Wayne and
Mm,
and Herbie
mm,
because and Marcus and Sean and
mm.
because
That was something.
how was that like? How did you first of all end up on that gig? Because
Yeah.
man, you swung like crazy there also. From the footage that I saw on the internet, you got the swing as well beside the I don't know how to call it, funky
That was
chops. But how did all that happen?
uh I still ask myself that. I'll tell you how it happened. It was DAP Theory. We were doing a gig in
Oh,
Montreux, and uh some promoters went to Marcus and said, "Hey, we want to do it's the 20th anniversary since Miles' passing." So and at that time tributes, and they still are a big thing. and they said, yeah, consider a tribute to Miles's career. So Marcus said, okay, well, I'm gonna get Wayne and Herbie and his trumpet player Sean Jones, right? And so they didn't want the typical guy. That's why I got in the band. You know,
Mm.
they looked at this is what I was told. They were looking at YouTube and they saw the depth theory thing. And the minute they saw me do the very first hit, I went, "Ah, doo, 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 doo." I did something on the drums. And Wayne called me Bad App. So then they listen to that and they listen to other thing. They go, put Bad App back on. Let me see that again. And that's why they liked me because I didn't sound like a lot of guys. I had my own thing.
Yes.
And that's what they wanted. And a lot of jazz drummers, the jazz guys in New York, they got a little pissed off. They're like, "How did he do that?" I was like, "Because I'm me. I'm weird." And they wanted something weird, and so they got weird. You know, it's nothing on you guys, but I've got a little rock thing,
Yes.
the jazz thing. I'm coming from everywhere, so they wanted somebody more open, and so somebody called me up. I was working on my first record actually, and I got a call, and they said, "Hey man, Wayne and Herbie are looking for." I said, "Well, I ran it to them before. They know where to find me." He's like, "No, they got this thing happening," and I was like, "Okay." And I just went about my business. And maybe a couple months later, I forgot who called me first, but I was recommended too because again, Federico and Terry Lynn Carrington said, "Yo, check this kid Sean Rickman out," because they weren't looking in my direction, and they saw that, and that was that. So next thing, I'm out in Los Angeles, and we started rehearsing in Burbank, and we were there, and they were figuring out the set list, and so Marcus said, "Let's do music from Miles's whole career.
Yeah.
Let's visit Miles in the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, 80s, all that, and let's pick." And then that's when the set list came together. I remember Sean wanted to do directions. He's like, "Let's do directions, and let's do this, and let's do that." And then you hear Wayne talk about all these stories, just like you read in Miles's book.
Yeah.
And was the song on Dolores? Was it Dolores? Yeah. And he said, "Oh yeah, that was the woman that she was trying to get everybody healthy. She was making health shakes for us. That's what that's about." It's these regular stories about the tunes, and Wayne is a unique person because he speaks like with imagery. He
Mhm.
doesn't say something like, I'm like, "So Wayne, you're not like going like the guy that goes drops the mail off at the post office or something, right?" Because he's like, "I'll take a picture." I was like, "Wayne, get in a picture with me." And then after that, he goes, "You got me in my Saturn hat." And I'm like, "Saturn hat? What are you talking about?" That was really, when he's saying something regular, he really means something regular. He had a Saturn dealership hat on. The car, it's a Saturn. I was like, "Oh, he was in a Saturn." And then another day, I said, "So Wayne, you got any suggestions about what you want to do?" He goes, "I like superheroes." Yeah, superheroes. And I went over to Sean. I said, "Superhero? What's he talking about?" He said, "I think he's talking about, like Batman. Bow, bip, boo." He was like, he wants some things to happen.
That's
I was
amazing.
like, okay. I needed a translator for Wayne. Herbie, on the other hand, was very laid back. Very laid, like you've known him all your life. The
Yeah.
Kronos keyboard just came out, right? And Herbie was like, you would have thought that this guy never touched the synthesizer. He would stay up all night long
Like a
with
kid. Yeah.
Wayne and messing with the, and he'd be like, "Yo, Wayne, check this out." Wow. And Wayne would go, "Oh yeah, that's nice." And they would just go back and forth. They were like, two best friends. And they were into technology and driving a smart car on the 405 freeway, that little car. I was like, "What are y'all doing? You can't drive that on the freeway." And they were just wild, man. They were taking over the Wi-Fi on the bus. You couldn't get on the Wi-Fi because of them two. It was just funny, man. It was great. That was a very, very, very fun time. We only did 10 shows in
Yeah.
Europe, And then if you look at those videos, you're always going to see Bruce Lee. And people say, "What do you mean, Bruce Lee?" I was like, "Bruce Lee's in those videos." There's what? There's a little statue of Bruce Lee sitting up on top of Marcus's space rig.
Ah, shit. Okay, I have to.
It's
Okay.
like there's these little stories, but those guys were laid back and everything. And Herbie didn't say too much to me, probably till like the fourth show. And I walk on the bus. He goes, "Hey man, I just want to tell you, man, you sound great." Thanks. You know,
That's funny,
it's
man.
very surreal. But yeah, that was very. They were talking about doing it again, but when you got guys like that together, you got 10 managers,
Yeah, yeah,
a
sure.
it's a lot of things that have to come together.
Yeah,
Sean Jones really had the logistics worked out. He goes, "Look, we could do Disney Theater in LA and we could do Radio City Music." I was like, y'all should listen to Sean. He should be the tour manager because he's like boom, boom, boom. And then we'll do the record, and that's a Grammy. And they should have listened to him.
yeah.
But it never happened.
Nice.
So
I love those because you know you're moving from In a Silent Way to Footprints, and someday my
yeah,
prince will come, and it's you know sometimes it swings, sometimes it's really open, sometimes
right.
it's in the pocket,
Hmm.
and I think you're that X factor in a positive way in that band because like if they got someone, I won't name names, but you know what I mean, like a safe choice, I'll put it like that, like.
Hmm.
It would sound cool, but with you, it sounds
Right.
really like, whoa, what? Because you're like that unexpected element in there in a really good way.
Yeah.
And it's,
I was like, finally, somebody gets it.
yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it's a shame you
Yeah.
didn't put out an official record, but, you know, there's so much stuff on YouTube anyway that it almost
Right.
feels like a record anyway. That Juan Lepine that you did in 211, that's,
And I gotta say that there's all this stupid behind the scenes stuff that doesn't matter, man. That was 2011,
yeah,
and I'm luckily I'm an archivist, so I need to have some video because I knew I was never going to be in that situation again. So, um, like I used to take my DATs and blank CDs or whatever. This time I would go to the trailer and I'd be like, "Y'all gonna give me a DVD?" And then they would get a little uptight. I was like, "Look, no, give me a DVD." Right? And I would get it. And then there were of some, and this is normal. Some festivals they want ownership and rights, and then there's just a lot of snakes. There's a DVD out of our show in Italy, in
mm,
Perugia,
yeah,
at Perugia Jazz Festival, and it's not our best show, and it's out. It's Japanese, and it kind of sucks. And I told Mark, I said, "Do you know this is out because you got these people like, no, don't release this," and you got these private entities that do bootlegs and stuff like that.
sure.
I put out, and I'm gonna do it again. I posted. I waited a few years. Our show in Vienne, France. This woman from the Vienna Jazz Festival got my YouTube channel struck, put striked on it because I did that. And I said, "Look, lady," and YouTube was like, "You got to have a permission." I'm like, "I'm the guy in the freaking band. What are you talking about?" I was like, "Go ahead, cancel the channel. I don't care. It's just like, what's the point of doing any of that when it's going to get held up in
Yeah.
licensing? This is free domain music. It's open domain, and you got one or two people who got some ego that want to hold on to something that no one's going to ever see.
Mhm.
So I just waited for people to either die off. I'm not talking about the band. I'm just die out of the scene
Sure, sure.
and be out of there. And now it's open season. But that it took so many years for this. It was just like the Shawn Lane thing I was talking about, where people were like don't. And there was one member of the family, just one member, and she was like, "No, you got to. It all has to get by me." I'm like, "Hey, lady, you don't even know how this music industry works. At least get an attorney and get some legal advice." My father just passed, and I have a finished album that we recorded it at my house in Tacoma Park, Maryland, in 2004,
Wow.
right? And it was on ADAT. And then I had it transferred to digital to hard drive in 2016. Okay. And then I finished the production on it, and it's been sitting ready to release since 2017. And there's a member of his crew, not him, that put a cease and desist on me, where they said you can't talk about Phil, you can't use his name, you can't release the music. I'm like, this is my father.
That's crazy, man.
What are you? Yeah. So I don't want to get all dark about it, but there's little bullshit out there
Sure.
of people who just got these egos. And I said, you know what? I remember in Boogie Nights there was a scene where they didn't pay for the session, and they needed the tapes to take it to the record company. And the guy, Robert Downey Sr., is playing the guy's studio. He goes, "You pay for the tapes, and you got it, but there are tapes." And I said, wherever, and this is the law, wherever you record the music, whoever records that, by law, that's their sound recording. That doesn't mean they have the licensing of the music and all that. That's a different story. But that record, and this is how record companies got over and get over on artists. And this is why Taylor Swift puts her record, same music out again. So she'll have the licensing on that. This is why Prince did his version of Purple Rain. People are like, why? Because when Prince put the slave, he didn't even own his name for a while. He had to wait in courts. It's that kind of stuff.
That's crazy.
But now it's a lot better. You know, but you just have to wait for the right time for all that malarkey to go away, and then you can like let the public see what's happening, you know?
Yeah.
I'm like, come on, I'm 55 now. Let's go. Come on.
I mean, there's so much footage out there, man, live gigs that should be out, you know? I mean, just
You should see
for people to hear, you know, because
yes,
you know, if you're a music fan, which I think all of us are as being musicians, we also love the music, right? I mean, I would love to hear footage by Holdsworth, like from some live gigs, or Shawn Lane or Miles or whoever, you know. It's just, I mean,
I got this tape a friend of mine gave me with Vinny. It's in the clubs, and it's killing. It's just audio, and I have been playing that tape I would listen to it on my way to some gigs, and it's not out right now. And I know Vinny. I can give him a call and ask him to see if it's okay, you know, because yeah, man, it's just a great recording. I mean,
it's a shame.
what harm is there in it, you know? But like I said, now it's better now. There's more awareness of how, and that old school is gone. The gatekeepers, they're gone. You know, it all crashed on itself. And it's wonderful now, even though it's oversaturated, that musicians and stuff that's why I recorded all my albums. No record company was going to
Bandcamp
help me.
helps and stuff like that, that you can release it on your own at least. And I mean, it's harder in a way, like you said, because it's so much. But in a way, it's also so much easier. You know, it's just you have to put in the effort to promote it, and that the word gets out, and that's the other thing. But quite interesting. Cool, Sean. I'll leave you go slowly.
Yeah, we can be here forever, but yeah, man. So like
are you going to be in
said,
Europe? What are your plans for this year? I mean, do you have any plans of coming to Europe, some touring
well,
wise?
Trickster, we did our first European tour in November. That was great. And again, that's all grassroots. I said to Miles, I said, hey, so who's going to manage the tour? And Miles goes, manager? Chat GPT, man. I said, oh, wow. He did Chat GPT, and we did our whole, and it's just about the Anthony Tidd. We just did a number of shows. When we did that first record, that was in 1999.
Yeah.
And we just did the follow up. Right now, Tidd is doing live shows. We've done a lot of stuff in Philly, New York, and it's just a matter of time. He got grants and stuff. There's more Trickster stuff. Steve, I'm going out with Steve in 2 weeks. We're going to do 3 weeks in Europe.
Ooh.
coming up, and those dates are at Saldagi's. That's
Oh yeah,
his.
yeah, the Austrian one. Yeah, I know those guys. Yeah.
Yeah, they're listed there under the artist tour dates and stuff. After I release this, I got to get out of the studio and get on the road. So I'm gonna finish this record. I got some nice kids here that I'm gonna try out on the drums and bass, and I got a big place now where we can like work on these tunes for a minute. I'm not waiting for perfection, just vibe, and we'll go out there and play all the wrong notes and make the mistakes. As long as the girls like it, that's all we care about. Um, and so yeah, there's a lot coming up. I recently have been on a new health kick. I've always been kind of a health nut. And so I'm a lot more focused right now. I've been doing intermittent fasting, a lot of vitamins and supplements.
Oh wow.
Now, if you and I go out, I promise you, I will have a shot or two of whiskey.
Oh man, I should not show you my whiskey cabinet again because I'm a whiskey. I love it. I have like
Oh, great.
40 whiskeys, empty
Wow.
bottles. I've been collecting them and drinking, and
Ah, that's great.
I'm a
That's
huge
rock and
fan, man.
roll, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like really renewed and very excited these days. People are talking about how bad these times are. And I was like, what are you talking about? Get away from that television. These are the best
Yep.
times, especially for artists. The world has always been crazy. You know what I'm
That's
saying?
true.
So, but nobody is, I mean, like, what do you want to go back to the 60s or like Vietnam or World War II? I mean, it's always going to be something
Yep.
going on, but you got to be healthy and alert and just into it. We got one life to live, and so and have fun. You just have
That's
fun.
my
So
philosophy,
yeah,
man. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yep. There's a lot to come. Just stay in touch. Like the Rick, and a lot of people don't. You found out. I'm the Rick on Bandcamp. So it's the Rick, and then you just see me on there, and you just type in any one of my songs or something, and you'll find me. And then my YouTube channel. I'm also my Instagram. I like Instagram because they don't limit your followers.
Oh yeah.
And so I'm always on there putting stuff up. I got off of Facebook. It was getting a little too, Generation X, man. My generation, they be whining and complaining. But I put nothing but music on there. But I'm always pumping out, letting people know what's going on every other day.
Yep.
So between IG and YouTube, you're gonna be in the know about everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll send the link also to when I publish this interview. I'll put a link to your Bandcamp below in the description so people can click on it as well, and
Oh,
so
thank
that
you. And also the
they can check.
Patreon.
Yeah, send me a
There's
link, man.
over
Send me a link
yeah,
so that I
it's
can add it.
there's over 100 videos on there. And you can sit there and geek out if you're just starting to play.
Yeah.
Then you're gonna like the funk stuff, just to get your stuff together. And if you like the way out stuff, all of that's there. There's PDFs, there's play alongs. You
Oh,
can
beautiful.
play along with the music, so you get the live thing. And I'm just trying to give everybody the same experience that I've had, what it's been like for me.
Yeah.
Because it's hard for me to get. I don't go out anymore because I live in the most. It's probably your house is the best place for you. I got the best
Absolutely.
theater, the best food, the
Absolutely.
best videos. Everything's here. You know.
Yeah,
so,
I hear you.
so yeah, thanks, man, for having me, man. This has been
Yeah.
great.
Thanks so much for finding the time, and I feel like we could talk for hours. So, but
We'll
yeah,
do an update in a
we'll do an
while.
update. Yeah. But if
Yeah.
you're gonna be close to me in Slovenia, just drop me a line and we'll get together for a beer or whatever, or a
Okay,
whiskey.
I'll send you the dates. Definitely.
Cool.
Yes.
Cool, Sean.
All right.
Stay strong.
Take care.
You too.
Talk to you.
Bye. Ciao.
Peace.
Ciao.